Hello, friends, and welcome to Pathologic Volume 2, Episode 32. This is our first bonus episode of the volume. As with last time, we are going to see a few puzzles that we've already encountered, but in a more difficult or longer version. And so who knows whether it's going to take me longer or not? We will see, but it might be a challenge for us. As will be the case throughout these next few videos, I'm going to be reinserting the rules explanation from the previous time that we saw this, so feel free to skip over that using the chapter markers if you wish and you already know the puzzle. But I also encourage you to go back and look at the older video in the archive about each of these puzzle types to either learn it for the first time or refresh your memory before going into a harder version. And you can, as always, solve the puzzle yourself by using the links in the instructions below. But first off, what we need to do is, for the people who need it, take a look at the rules. Snake Egg is a shading puzzle in which we will shade some cells to form a non-intersecting path, which does not touch itself orthogonally, but may touch itself diagonally. That means, as you can see in this example, we can trace a path going horizontally and vertically through the grid, and it's okay if that path touches a corner of the path, but it can't touch on an edge, so this could not go one cell farther south. Circles mark the ends of the path, so these two circles indicate those are the start and finish of the path, wherever it goes. Exactly one orthogonally connected area of unshaded cells must exist of each size from the range given outside the grid, 1 to 4 in this example. So when you get a snake egg puzzle outside the grid, it's going to give you a range, which is 1 to 4 here, and we must have exactly one region of size 1, like this one right here, a 2, a 3, and a 4, and nothing else. Cells with numbers cannot be shaded and represent the size of the area they're in. So that's just saying that this 4 here must be in the region of size 4, wherever it is. This is not a restriction that says we couldn't have another 4 somewhere in the puzzle. It just means that if there were another 4, it would be part of that same 4-cell region. Those are all of the rules of Snake Egg. So let's get solving. Today's snake egg puzzle comes to us from Eric Fox. We have regions of size 1 to 6 in this puzzle and a few given numbers. I see first off that the 6s here obviously have to be part of the same region and are quite constrained because 6 is already the distance between them, so we're not going to have any extra room to make any larger regions here. This is going to be a little snake of its own that goes between these two 6s, so that's worth thinking about, I believe. I think what that means is that the outside cells that are at this corner are going to have to be shaded because we know this 6 region doesn't extend any further north or west. So these two would have to be shaded from that. We actually knew this was shaded anyway because it's the start of a snake. And that also gives us this cell because if this were shaded, then we would have the snake be way too short. So that is not shaded. The snake does come around here. Doesn't connect elsewhere to the start, and we are going, I think. Okay, this snake needs to get, it's not going to go through here because the 6s connect to each other. So in order to get from start to finish, it needs to go through this gap here. Those two gaps are going to be forced by that. That tells us this 3, it might go south, but it definitely goes east. And that tells us a little bit more about how the snake travels through that gap. Okay, what are we going to do next? This, let's see, anything more that we can tell about that 6? If it were to go, let's say it were to reach this cell, then it would have to go all the way down and left, which would give us snake in this area. That's going to end up with a 2x2 here. That's not going to be possible. I don't know how to notate that, though. We can't go that far south. I'm going to guess it probably is going to end up doing that, but how to prove it is the question. Let's see. This 4 could connect to the left and hook up here, but doesn't have to. These two, if they went west, they're not going to hook up to this. So that would have to be a 5. They don't have to come up here. That seems possible. Don't think we can rule that out yet. If this one is filled in, the 3 comes down. Again, seems okay. Actually, I feel like no matter what, could this ever be a 2? If this were a 2, I'm thinking this might have to be a 5. If this were a 2, we'd have to box it off in both directions. And that's a problem for this 3 because it's got to extend down here because the snake doesn't travel in there, but the snake also doesn't travel in here. Yeah, that is not a 2 as a result. This is part of a 5. Because we already determined it wasn't a 4, can't reach the 6. This is part of a 5. And it might be these 4 and 1 more, or it could be these 2 and 3 more. Either way, it comes up here. That tells us how the snake travels around this corner, which tells us what the 3 does, which tells us more about the snake. And now our 5 has to come out here and be done. And we've done our 5. This could still be a single or might connect up to the 4. I don't think this tells us that. But we do know that these 2 are not shaded by snake adjacency rules, which tells us that, as I suspected, this 6 does hug the wall. And therefore these are all shaded, and the snake has to continue without touching itself around here. Might come up here. Actually, I don't think it can come up here now. I think that might be the next step. If it comes up here, this way, then it's got to go left, and that isolates this cell as having at most 3 cells, and it needs 4 in that egg, I guess. So this doesn't go north, this goes west, making this not shaded, finishing off the 4, finishing off the 1, finishing off these 2, and as we saw just then, that is the solution. So that is how you solve a snake egg.